Today I'm excited to share a quote with you from Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness. And you can find this quote, or let's say these 5 separate quotes, in chapter 5, The Truth That Sets You Free. And that's why today I want to show you how Neville Goddard's truth set me free. And I also want to share specific examples that I've used from my own personal life in regards to how I manifested money, how I manifested physical healing, and how I manifested a loving relationship with this principle, or let's better say these principles that Neville Goddard shares in the following quotes. And I want to reveal each quote individually and then give you practical examples how you can apply it into your daily manifestation routine. And I also want to share examples from my own life, how I used it and how I'm still using these principles on a daily basis. So here's what Neville Goddard says in chapter 5, The Truth That Sets You Free. Since your life is determined by your assumptions, you are forced to recognize the fact that you are either a slave to your assumptions or the master. To become the master of your assumptions is the key to undreamed of freedom and happiness. I invite you now to really think about these words. What does it mean to master your assumptions? It means that you master the assumptions that you have in your mind about your life and also about yourself. We all have certain assumptions about ourselves. We have certain assumptions about the life that we live. To give you one specific example, I was born with a congenital heart defect. So from a very young age, I was basically conditioned by my doctors and by my parents. I mean, my parents meant really well. They had no idea about the law of attraction. They meant really well. But I was conditioned to believe that I was this sick child, that I have to be careful when I do sports, that I have to be careful when I go out, that I have to be careful that I don't get sick. And as a result, I was always sick. I mean, this is the law of attraction in action. That was my biggest fear. I was constantly assuming that I was this sick child. I identified myself as being this sick child who always needs protection, who always has to be careful, who always has to make sure that he doesn't get sick. And I think from all the children in my class, I was sick the most often. Why? Because it was in my consciousness. I made the assumption that this is who I am. And that's why also my physical healing took me the longest. That's why for me, manifesting physical healing after another surgery that I had, which I already shared with you in another episode, this is why physical healing took me the longest. Because for the most part of my life, I was living with the assumption that I was this sick child. And even though I was then an adult, I was still living from the same consciousness of being the sick child. And the same is true if you want to, for example, manifest money. If you can't break free from the money consciousness that maybe your parents have installed in you from a young age by saying, oh, you need to save more money. Oh, we can't afford this. No, we can't buy that right now. Life is expensive. And you were fed this belief, this assumption over and over again. Then, as Neville Goddard describes in this quote, you are the slave to your assumption. And as Neville Goddard says, and I want to quote again, to become the master of your assumption is the key to undreamed of freedom and happiness. And this was the key moment for me when I decided, no more change. I will no longer be this sick child. I will no longer drag this consciousness of this sick child with me into my adulthood. And that's why after another surgery that I had, where I had severe nerve damage, that's why physical healing was possible for me. Because at some point I refused to stay in this slave mindset of being a slave of my assumption from the past. And instead, I became the master of my assumption, and I assumed health, I assumed wholeness, I assumed well-being. And that's when it changed. That's when all the changes happened. And as Neville Goddard says, to become the master of your assumptions is the key to undreamed of freedom and happiness. And now let's have a look at the second quote from The Power of Awareness, chapter 5, The Truth That Sets You Free. You can attain this mastery by deliberate conscious control of your imagination. You have to remember, and you have to remember it every day, that the only true reality is your imagination, because with your imagination, you create what most people call their true reality, which is your physical reality. But the only true reality there is your imagination, because everything that every human being, every man, every woman has ever created was first created in their imagination. And that's why right now you have to see your physical reality as the result of your past vibration, of your past creation that you can now change. And as Neville Goddard says, and I want to read this quote again, you can attain this mastery by deliberate conscious control of your imagination. Yes, you need to control your imagination. You need to control the pictures. You need to guide these pictures in the direction where you want them to be. And that's a tedious process in the beginning, especially if you're not used to it. And that's why also one of the modules of my 11 Days to Manifestation Mastery program is specifically about using visualization and meditation to combine it into one powerful manifestation technique, which is visual meditation. And you can find out more about the 11 Days to Manifestation Mastery program by clicking on the first link in the description or by going to affirmationtomanifestation.com/mastery. But always remember that you are the master, if you choose to be, of your assumptions. And you can then, through deliberate conscious control of your imagination, change your assumption from the past assumption, the example that I mentioned, me being the sick child who always needs protection, towards a future assumption, me being a healthy adult who was finally able to break free from this limiting consciousness. And then the next quote from Neville Goddard from The Power of Awareness, Chapter 5. You determine your assumptions in this way. From a mental image, a picture of the state desired, of the person you want to be, concentrate your attention upon the feeling that you are already that person. First visualize the picture in your consciousness. Right now, it's all about visualizing this mental image. And you can visualize this mental image however you want to do it. I always visualize in the first person, just like you're playing a video game. I mean, also the video games that you shouldn't be playing, the brutal ones, it's always on the first person. And I played these video games so many years as a teenager, and well, it's not the best thing to do for your level of consciousness and your vibration, at least in my personal opinion. But I don't want to talk about video games right now. I want to talk about your mental image. Even though, in the exact same way as in the video game, the graphics are created outside of you and then turning into pictures of environments, of mountains, of bridges. You can do the exact same thing while you're visualizing. When I'm visualizing, I always use the first person perspective because it just feels real for me. Other people have successfully used the third person where they see themselves from a distance. However, that's not how I do it. You can of course do it however you want. For me, it's easier to get into the emotional state when I use the first person perspective, because then I see myself and I see my environment exactly in the way that I see it in what most people describe as their physical reality, which for me is just the result of my imagination. And when it comes to visualizing, please don't send me an email and say, Sebastian, I've tried it once. Oh, I've tried it 2 times. Oh, I've tried it 3 times, but it doesn't work. Well, I have to say it with Joe Dispenza's words. Maybe you're not that good yet. You have to continue to practice. I'm all about consistency. As the German that I am, I truly believe in consistent action. It's very important. And then let's have a look at the next quote and the next step in this incredible manifestation routine. Then feel yourself to be in that state. That's what Neville Goddard says. And he continues to say, as though it actually formed your surrounding world. By your imagination, that which was mere mental image is changed into a seemingly solid reality. What that means is that by practicing over and over again and by becoming better and better at it, you not only are able to create these worlds in your imagination, but you also turn, as Neville Goddard says it, and I want to quote again, a mere mental image is changed into a seemingly solid reality. And this is the key. Once your imagination feels so real, looks so real, and it creates the emotions that you would feel if it already was in your physical reality, that's when it can come to you. And this leads me to the next quote, and also the last quote that I want to share with you in this episode from Neville Goddard. The great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. I want to repeat that again. The great secret is a controlled imagination. So think about it, controlled imagination. You are the master. You are not the slave of your assumptions. You are the master. You are creating the assumptions. You are creating the mental images. And that's how you can then, through this well-sustained attention, so in other words, you can't just visualize it for 1 second and boom, it's gone and then you play video games. But you continue to do it, you get better at it. And yes, in the beginning you might just be able to visualize it for 1 second or 2 seconds. But then the more you do it, the more you get into it, the more you reach that feeling, then you will be able to sustain this attention firmly and repeatedly. And then, as Neville Goddard says, focus on the object to be accomplished. Because then, once you do that, once you put these individual steps into practice, it will be so easy for you to create what you've seen in your imagination and what you felt with your eyes closed. And also once you get really good at it with your eyes open, and then it can come to you and then you can experience it in your physical reality. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. And if you're now motivated to manifest your dream life, then you might want to go to affirmationtomanifestation.com/coaching to find out more about the different coaching sessions I offer. And we can then work together on making your dreams a reality. And I will then also, when you book a Skype coaching session with me, share all the individual manifestation techniques that I used on my journey and that I still use on a daily basis. I'm excited to get to know you, and I'm excited to work with you. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please send out some love to the YouTube universe by giving this video a big thumbs up. And I would also appreciate it if you would leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think about my video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to click on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I release a new video for you.